Good morning. It is a late Sunday morning, mid-January on Vancouver Island, Canada. My name is Kelsey. I am a creative and I share my creative projects on this channel. I have taken a few months off YouTube. My last video that I posted was in September, so I would like to tell you where I've been and share what I've been working on since then. I am currently working on some ribbing swatches for my number 14 v-neck by My Favorite Things knitwear. I'm pretty far along on this project. It's like a very open gauged, fluffy. It's one strand of knitting for all of merino plus 2 strands of knitting for all of silk mohair. So it's a very lightweight. I'm knitting it on 5.5 millimeter needles. So I want to share about that. I want to share about what I've made since I've been here. I had a few life changes, which I will also share about. I have just had my breakfast, so I'm going to tidy up a little bit and find a cozy spot and check back in. Okay, so I'm settled in. This is my sweater number 14 v-neck. I am just on the first sleeve. I did a few swatches for this project. The pattern calls for a 6 millimeter needle, and I decided to size down to a 5.5 millimeter needle just to get tighter fabric. And I did notice that a fair number of people on Ravelry talked about how the project was pretty oversized. So I knit the body. I got it to the point where I was in the round and knit down a little bit. I picked up and did the neck, and then I tried it on just to make sure that it wasn't going to be too small, and it looked like it'll be all right. So I proceeded with the knitting. But one thing I found was that the recommended needle size for the ribbing gave me like quite a messy, loose ribbing. So I want to size down a needle size. So I did these 2 swatches just to test an option. So this is my stockinette swatch. It is 20 stitches on the 5.5 millimeter needle. And what I did was I tried to create a fabric that was the same size in a 2x2 rib on a 4 millimeter needle. So I wanted to see how many stitches did it take to get roughly the same size swatch. And this is 28 stitches. So for every 20 stitches, I would need 8 extra stitches, which is a 40% increase in stitches. This isn't an idea that I came up with. A friend of mine and I were chatting. We had both seen it on 2 Pearls and a Pod, Sarah and Paige. Sarah had done something similar for one of her projects to try and get a neater rib. So I decided to proceed kind of using this method, but I went to a 4.5 millimeter needle instead of a 4, which is what I used it on the neckband. And I'm just trying it on the sleeve for now. I increased 8 stitches, which is less than 20% increase in stitches. But I figure if it ends up a little bit tight, I could block it out to be so it's not too cinched at the wrist. So that is what I'm currently working on, and I'll be sure to share how it turns out as this project kind of goes on. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about was why I haven't posted a video in over 3 months. So my last video was in September of last year. On October 2nd, I got a call that I had gotten a surgery date, which is something I have been waiting for quite some time. So in the fall of 2024, I found out that I have had numerous fibroids, 2 of which were both 10 centimeters in diameter. So that's was basically like having 2 grapefruits in my lower abdomen, and I ended up getting a surgery date. So I got the call on October 2nd. I got the surgery date for December 2nd. So once I got that call, everything became really real, and I decided to basically drop kind of all my projects that I had going on just to really focus on getting as healthy as possible and just kind of going inward to prepare myself for that surgery. So I did have quite a bit of time to prepare. Like I said, I found out about it about a year prior to receiving the surgery date. So I had worked with a counselor to just kind of come to terms with having to have surgery. So on December 2nd, I had a laparoscopic total hysterectomy. They were able to preserve my ovaries. So I still have my ovaries, but I did have a hysterectomy. December was a pretty quiet month. I've just been resting and trying to recover from that. It was a really positive experience. I thought about whether or not I wanted to share because there are so many kind of scary stories online, and I just decided that I wasn't going to share online unless I had a positive experience because I just didn't want to add to sort of the fear online. But I did have a great experience. The surgery was like best case scenario. I had a great team to work with. So I had my surgery in Victoria, BC, and I was home the following day. And since then, I've just been at home, resting, recovering, trying to take really good care of myself. I had a lot of help from my spouse. He had taken a few weeks off work early on, and so I will be 6 weeks post-op on Tuesday. It is Sunday today, and I will have my follow-up appointment with my surgeon at the end of this month just to make sure everything is healing well. I am still pretty restricted. I can't do any exercise beyond walking, and I still can't really lift anything, I think, beyond 10 pounds. So I am still really taking it easy. I can definitely still feel that I'm limited. I get tired quite easily. I'm just really embracing the slowness of this transition. I have been knitting a lot. I have been reading a lot. I've been just trying to cook myself like really warm and nourishing meals. One of the books that I read, I have it here. It's called Wintering: The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times. It's by Catherine May. It's definitely not a new book. It's been out for a while and I have wanted to read it, but had a lot of space in my life to read right now. So I was able to get through this one quite quickly. I am finished it now and I did really enjoy it. It's about how different people from around the world winter, and I don't mean just like winter, like the season, but sometimes we go through stages of life that are more like a winter where we have to retreat and take care of ourselves and slow down. And sometimes that is forced wintering, like a health challenge, or maybe it is an intentional wintering where people go inward and just focus on themselves. But it was a really nice book to read this time of year, and it was really nice to read this through this time of my life. I know many of us get burnt out with our everyday lives and things just move quite quickly, and sometimes it's hard to make space for little things that bring us joy. So this was a lovely book and I would definitely recommend it to anybody who believes that they're wintering or is going through a winter or thinks it might be something that they need in their life. So I am just gonna continue working here on this sleeve. I do have a friend coming over this afternoon, so I will put together some different teas that I could offer her, but I will check back in either later tonight or tomorrow because I do want to share how it went with finishing up some of my whips. I also want to share some projects that I've been working on both before and after surgery. A few people have asked me to share things from around my home, which is definitely one of my creative outlets. It's a slow process though, so I haven't really found the best way to share, but I did want to share some updates that I did in our bedrooms. I will share that and I look forward to it, and I'll talk to you in a bit. Last night I finished the ribbing on my sleeve, and I had originally planned to do a 4mm needle, 4.5mm needle with an 8 stitch increase to do the rib, and I did about an inch or two and I didn't love the way it was looking, so I went down to a 4mm needle and I kept the 8 stitch increase, and I like the way that it's turned out. So you can see the body where I did the recommended 5mm needle, and then you can see the sleeve where I did the 4mm needle, and I prefer the structure of the sleeve. I was a little bit worried that with those extra stitches in the tighter needle that the ribbing section would be like a little bit too much structured for the project, but that isn't the case. So once I finished that, I laid the sweater out to measure the sleeve so that I could make the second sleeve the same length, and I quickly realized that I made my sleeve, the stockinette section, about 3 inches too long. So I decided to block the project, make sure I liked the rib, make sure I liked the way everything was working out, and then just see if the sleeve turned out too long. And as you can see, the sleeve turned out too long. When I'm standing, it's like even longer than my fingertips. So I definitely do need to go back and fix that, but I was happy to have blocked it and just see that I like it. So I do have a fair bit of work here to do with this. I need to fix the sleeve. I need to pull out the body ribbing and reknit the ribbing with that 4mm in the 4mm needle, and then figure out how many stitches I need to increase there to kind of get the same effect that I got on the sleeve. And then I need to knit this side. So I am going to work on that this afternoon. One of my intentions for knitting in 2026 is to really take the time to get my projects right instead of like feeling anxious and like I want to just like blow through them really quickly, especially on something like this. I think I bought the yarn on December 31st and I feel like I could have whipped through this project really quickly, but I took the time to do those extra swatches just to really make sure that the finishings of the garment turned out well, and I'm quite happy that I did. You can see that it did grow a fair bit. Lots of the pictures on Ravelry, like some of them are even like the neckline is falling off the person's shoulder. So it definitely grew a lot. I am realizing it has like a bit of a tendency to just sort of like gape right there, but I think I could fix that with a little piece of elastic. I've never done that before and I'm gonna give it a try. We'll see how it works on the V-neck. I don't want it to like pull the bottom up, but we will see how that works. Back to my intentions for this year. So yeah, it's really in line with the less but better, which is something I talk about a lot on this channel. Just using nicer materials and really taking the time to make sure that the fabric is right before proceeding with the project. A friend of mine and I have talked about kind of like that last 3% in your project to really take the time to like get your finishings so that it really looks professional at the end. And sometimes that just takes like some extra swatching or some experimenting and then being open to like rip things out if it didn't work. So I am proud of myself because I'm doing that with this project. I'm going to take the time to just really get it right. I am liking the overall how it looks. It's very light and cozy, which is lovely, and the color is quite nice moving into spring. One of the other intentions that I have for 2026 with knitting is to get my projects in Ravelry and to take good notes. So because I did make quite a few modifications on the needle sizes on this project, and in fact I think I actually would have gone an additional needle size down in the body fabric just because it did grow so much, I will make sure to leave all those notes in Ravelry. One, to help me in the future realize what I've learned and what I've knit in a year, and then two, to help others when they're trying to select a project or trying to get the best result out of their project. So I am going to have lunch and then I'm going to get cozy. It's been a pretty slow morning. We have another rainy day here, so I will just be taking it easy and working on this project.
Make a mess.
Okay, let's talk whips. So the last video that I made in September was a commitment to finish my whips. I got quite a few things done. I didn't get everything done, so I'm going to update you on that. So one of the projects that I talked about was my baby Moby sweater. So this was the first one that I worked on because I knew I had a deadline to get it done. So it's made in Sadness Garn, double Sunday, and I think I made the size 2 to 3. I ended up getting the measurements for the baby who this was for, and unfortunately there was like no positive ease, so the sweater ended up being too small for him. I think he's a little bit bigger than his age, but also somehow I think it turned out a little bit smaller than it should have. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to gift this one for Christmas, but I'm going to hang on to it and perhaps give it to another baby in my life whom it would fit. So that's my baby Moby. I also had this Sunday sweater, mohair edition, petite knit pattern in Knitting for Olive Merino in the color Plum Clay, held with Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair, also in the color Plum Clay. I finished this one. It turned out quite nice. I have to say I really like this gauge and fabric. So the stockinette on a 4mm needle with the 2 strands, the merino plus soft silk mohair, just makes such a lovely fabric. I am counting this as done. Have I woven in my ends? No, but I haven't worn it, obviously. Yeah, anyhow, I'm counting it as done, and it turned out really great. It's maybe a little bit smaller than I would like, but I think it actually suits the pattern. So I did finish that one after the baby Moby. The third sweater that I finished is a self-drafted raglan. It's very loosely based on the Gallant sweater by Kadri. It's Knitting for Olive Merino held double, 1 strand in the color Fennel and 1 strand in the color Elderflower. And again, haven't woven in my ends, still have the decreased stitch markers on the sleeve. Can I remember exactly what I did with this? No, I just wanted to get it done. I actually think now holding it up, it might be quite nice for spring. So you can see the fabric on that. Turned out quite good. I did, actually, you know what? I don't even think I've blocked this just by the way that it's folding up. I did the same bottom as on the petite knit cloud sweater, which is just 4 rows of ribbing followed by 4 rows of stockinette and just a simple bind off. So I will hopefully wear this one this spring. I feel like it's showing a little bit nicer on camera than it is in person in terms of color, but I did have a friend try it on and I thought it looked great on her, so I should at least give it a chance and weave in my ends and try wearing it. I think when I have sweaters that don't turn out quite the way I hoped they would, they can just become house sweaters, which suits me just fine. The last whip that I have is not completed, and it is the Levitate wrap from my favorite things knitwear, knit in Issayer, EcoSoft, I think they just call it Soft now, and Trio 1. Can't remember if it's Trio 1 or Trio 2. But the second yarn, the Trio, is very like floss-like. It's really like firm and has no give in it and tangles very easily when pulling it off the ball. Anyhow, I'll show you where I'm at. It's a bit hard to show, but when I had shown it to you last, I had just done the body, so I'd done none of the double knitting bands, and I have done most of the double knitting bands. So I went all the way around the neckline, and I went all the way around the bottom. I did one of the ties, which I just put on a stitch holder for now, and then I have to graft on the second tie. I have to knit it, graft it on. I did a partial one sleeve, and I still have the other sleeve to do. So I did find this one like a little bit torturous to do all of that double knitting, and I sort of lost my mojo partway through working on it, and then I just decided to give myself some grace with this one and set it aside. I also feel like I'm gonna run out of the trio, and for whatever reason I could not find that yarn in Canada, and I ended up having to order it from the UK, which was fine. I suppose we don't need to worry about duties when ordering from the UK. I think the shipping was like $40 to get that yarn here, so it would really be unfortunate to have to order one more ball of it and have it sent here. So I think I just kind of like lost steam on this one. Will I finish it? Yes, I will eventually finish it, but I'm just giving myself a bit of grace to just set it aside for now. I was working on this post-surgery. I think the baby sweater and the clay sweater I was able to finish before surgery, and then the raglan and this one I worked on after surgery, and I felt like I just needed to pick me up. The new Taylor Swift documentary came out, or at least a few episodes of it, and I wanted something to knit during that would be more fun. So I don't have it here. I can actually see it on the dining table. I'm just gonna go grab it. Okay, so I did make a weekend hat from Petite Knit. This is a very popular pattern, so I'm sure you have all heard of it. It is knit in Knitting for Olive Merino in the color Dusty Rose, and then the mohair that I used from Knitting for Olive was called Soft Rose. So the mohair's quite a bit lighter than the merino, and it kind of just gave it a little bit of variation and a little bit more brightness to the Dusty Rose. I did some looking up color theory when I was home and resting from surgery, and that's not something I'd done before, and I by no means am an expert. And I didn't get any professional advice on it, but I did put my photo into ChatGPT a few times to ask what color season is mine. And we almost always ended up in summer, and it was light summer, I believe is what it would give me. Sometimes soft summer, depending on the photo. And in one case I got light spring. So yeah, I'm not gonna really hold myself to like keep to that, but it is something that I wanted to explore, and pink is just not a color that I wear very often. These sort of like bright pastels, I just don't gravitate towards them, but I wanted to give it a chance. So that's part of why I bought this color, and I knit it watching the, as I said, Taylor Swift documentary. So that is my weekend hat. So that brings me to the end of everything that I've finished since I was here last in September. I'm obviously still working on my sweater number 14 V-neck. It's been a couple days since I last filmed, and I fixed the extra long sleeve, and I'm just to the point where I'm going to do the ribbing on the sleeve. I had to block this sleeve and this ribbing on the sleeve just to make sure that I was going to end up with the right length here before I started the ribbing. So today I should be able to get the majority of the ribbing done on the second sleeve. Then I really have to just like decide for sure if I want to go back and do the ribbing along the bottom. So we'll see how I feel when that's done. I still need to track down the right elastic to put in the neckline, but I will definitely let you all know how that goes. So because this is coming to an end, I have been thinking about what's next, and I thought I would share that with you. So I did take advantage of the Knitting Loft Boxing Day sale, which they did 20% off. It's a knitting store in Toronto, and I splurged and I ordered Cardiff Cashmere Classic. I'll put the name of the color on the screen. I think it's Ariel, but it is this cool, very light gray, neutrally, almost kind of looks a bit pink in certain lights. So this was knit on a 4mm needle, and I held it with Isair mohair, and it is so soft. And I think originally what I'd wanted to do with this was to have it be a little bit more gray. So I did also swatch it with Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the color Morning Haze, just to see what I would get there. And I have to say there is a difference between the softness of these two swatches. The Isair mohair with the Cardiff is so soft. This is also soft, but it's not as soft. So I am pretty set on like going for maximum softness, considering I did splurge and get the Cardiff Cashmere sweaters quantity. So I think I will try and find a gray Isair mohair to also swatch. I guess I should tell you what I plan to knit with this, and that's the Braidy Loop sweater by Other Loops. So I've never done an Other Loops pattern. I've been interested in doing the Braidy Loop. I've been interested in doing the Tulip Loop. I think I'll start with the Braidy Loop. And a lot of the photos that I was seeing on Ravelry, because it's kind of got like an all over ribbing pattern, I sometimes found they looked a little bit too open, and that was knit with Knitting for Olive Merino plus a strand of silk mohair. So I wanted to find a base yarn that was a little bit, oh geez, I wanted to find a base yarn that was a little bit thicker, and I think the Cardiff is going to do that for me, just to kind of tighten it up, make it a little bit thicker, but still hopefully have some nice drape, which I think the Cardiff will be good for. So I am looking forward to making some progress on this. I've got to order the Isair gray mohair. I'll swatch that and then kind of make a final decision about what I want to do, and I guess if it's good, I'll be able to get started and then order the remainder of that yarn. I am having coffee with a friend today, and we always like to kind of bounce ideas off each other with knitting, so it'll be kind of fun to see what she thinks of the two color options that I've decided here. But I do think that's what I have on the docket as a next project. Another project that I've been curious about, and this is Isair Aran Tweed in the Confetti colorway. It's quite an interesting yarn. It's got a lot of like different colors in it. It's a friend of mine had given me this ball. She used it for a sweater, and I don't think I would have liked this, but then seeing her wear her sweater, I really do like it. And so I was looking at different ideas, what I could use to make this sweater. I have made the cardigan number 8 in this yarn in the sand colorway by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and it's just held with mohair. So I have used this yarn before, but I did come across the Clematis cardigan Chunky, and it's one of those asymmetrical cardigans. I don't even know if it actually opens. It kind of looks like at the top it might not open. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but they are using an Erica Knight yarn that's so similar to this that I think I'd be able to get the same results with. So that's one idea for this. I would need to find a mohair. I think when I order the mohair for my Cardiff sweater, I'm also going to order an option for this. And I was thinking about the Midnight colorway in the soft silk mohair by Knitting for Olive. It's just like this really dark gray, and I'll put a picture up of my inspiration for that. So those are the two projects. I also am feeling drawn to do something in like a bright color for spring, something chunky like the Tulip Loop, but I haven't really been able to kind of match some yarn and a sweater gauge together for that one. So I am just going to focus on what's right in front of me, which is the Braidy Loop and possibly this Clematis sweater. So I will let you know what I'm wearing. This is the Yoon sweater by November Knits. I knit it in Isair Jensen, held with their soft silk mohair. It's got a slit down the side and quite large ribbing sections. I got this yarn partially gifted to me for my 39th birthday last year, so in April, and slowly sort of worked on this one through the summer. I believe it was last year, 2025. It could have been 2024, but I've had a great experience with this yarn. I suppose there is some pilling, you can see on the sleeve, but pretty minimal considering how much I've actually worn it. It's just like a very easy piece to throw on with jeans. The slit doesn't really bother me. I tend to wear high-waisted pants quite often. And I have had a question about these pants before in the past. So these are a pant that I self-drafted from a video on YouTube, which was basically like how to draft your own pants. I copied the fly off the Persephone pants by Anna Allen, and then just did like this contrast stitching on them. And I made them very high rise. They are fitting a little bit looser post-surgery, which makes them a little bit more comfortable and easy to wear for every day. So I was going to talk about my bedroom in this video, but I know it's getting pretty long, so I think I might wrap it up for today and save the update on my bedroom for a future video. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. It's been fun to be back, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your January.